May 1st, 2015, 6:30 in the morning. A Mexican military Cougar helicopter carrying 18 soldiers is flying a routine sweep over the mountains of Villa Purificación, Jalisco. Below, hidden on a dirt road with their headlights off, a convoy of armed vehicles is moving through the dark. 6 rockets, 2 direct hits. The helicopter spins out of control, crashes into the mountain, and explodes. 8 soldiers and 1 federal police officer are dead. 3 of their bodies are so badly burned. DNA testing is the only way to identify them. The Mexican government had never, in the entire history of its drug war, seen organized crime shoot down a military aircraft until this morning. To understand how a cartel shoots down military helicopters with rocket launchers, you have to go back to one man and a childhood in one of the most violent corners of Mexico. His name is Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes. Born 1966 in Aguililla, Michoacán, the same town that would later become a symbol of cartel brutality. Growing up poor in rural Mexico, Oseguera does what thousands of young men do. He crosses the border illegally into California, San Francisco, Sacramento. He deals drugs on a small scale, gets arrested, gets deported, comes back, gets arrested again. A pattern that would follow him for years. The last arrest is the one that sticks. A stint behind bars in the United States. Not long enough to break him, but long enough to think, to watch, to learn how the system on the other side of the border actually operates from the inside. When he's deported this time, he doesn't come back. Mexico is where he stays, for good. But he doesn't go home empty-handed. He goes home with knowledge of the American market, of how demand works, of logistics, supply chains, and how the money moves across a border that supposedly stops everything. At some point in the late 1980s, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, he becomes a cop, a municipal police officer in Jalisco. Think about what that means. He sits in the briefings. He learns which roads get patrolled and which ones don't. He sees which officials take envelopes and which ones don't. He watches how evidence disappears, how arrests get made and unmade. He doesn't just learn the criminal routes. He learns the gaps between them, the blind spots, the hours when nobody is watching. Every patrol route he memorized would become a smuggling corridor. Every corrupt colleague he identified would become a future asset. Every weakness in the system he cataloged would become a weapon. And when the uniform comes off for good, he goes to work for the Milenio Cartel. 2009. Mexico's government, under massive pressure from the United States, is launching the most aggressive cartel crackdown in the country's history. And it's working, at least on paper. The Beltran Leyva organization, shattered by arrests and military raids. The Zetas, fragmenting under internal power struggles. And then, in July 2010, Ignacio Nacho Coronel, the Sinaloa cartel's most powerful finance operator in Jalisco, is killed by the Mexican army. Coronel was Oseguera's boss. And with him dead, a power vacuum opens in Jalisco, one of the most strategically valuable states in Mexico. Pacific ports, highway corridors, industrial output, access to everything. Oseguera doesn't wait to be assigned a new boss. He seizes the moment. He gathers the loyalists. He cuts ties with Sinaloa. And in 2010, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel is born. They give themselves a name that sounds almost corporate. Jalisco New Generation. New Generation, like they're rebranding failure into ambition. Within 6 months of founding, CJNG has expanded from coast to coast across Mexico. 6 months. How? Because El Mencho, the nickname the streets give Oseguera, understands something the old cartels don't. You don't just fight for territory, you absorb it. When a rival cartel gets crushed by the government, you don't celebrate. You move in immediately. You take their routes, their contacts, their surviving soldiers. A researcher at the University of Maryland put it bluntly. The CJNG is essentially a reinvention of Los Zetas. They took over every territory the government cleared out. By 2012, analysts who track cartel activity are stunned. This new organization, barely 2 years old, already has a presence in 23 of Mexico's 32 states. And it has something no cartel has had at this scale before: a military. Most cartels have sicarios, hired killers. CJNG built something different. They call it Grupo Elite. And when you see what it looks like, it doesn't look like a drug cartel. Matching uniforms, custom-built armored trucks, anti-aircraft weapons, grenade launchers, drones. This is a paramilitary force, trained, disciplined, and equipped at a level that rivals some national armies. El Mencho recruits from everywhere. Former soldiers, former Zetas, former police, including, chillingly, officers he knew from his own brief stint as a municipal cop in Jalisco. He takes their training and points it inward. They even have insignia, rank, command structure. The patches found after the helicopter attack read CJNG, Special Forces High Command, 5 stars. But El Mencho understands something the Zetas never quite did. Violence alone doesn't hold territory. Fear does. And fear needs a message. The CJNG launches a PR campaign unlike anything the cartel world has seen. They hang massive banners on highways, not just threatening rivals, but positioning themselves as the solution. "We are cleaning Jalisco," the banners read. "We are eliminating kidnapping, extortion, robbery." They produce music videos, narco corridos celebrating their victories with professional production, custom graphics, drone shots of their convoys. They understand that in the age of social media, optics are power. Civilians in CJNG territory tell researchers something disturbing. In some neighborhoods, cartel violence actually drops because the CJNG eliminates its competition so thoroughly that there's nobody left to fight. Order through annihilation. And funding all of this, the most profitable criminal enterprise in human history. El Mencho's genius, if you can call it that, is in seeing the future of drugs before anyone else. While old cartels are still fighting over cocaine routes, he pivots hard to methamphetamine. And then, fentanyl. By 2024, the DEA is seizing roughly 70 tons of methamphetamine per year along the U.S. southwest border, up from 4 tons in 2010. The price per gram collapses from $268 down to $10. But CJNG makes up for price drops with volume no one can match. They also diversify: extortion, kidnapping, fuel theft. They siphon from Pemex pipelines, making hundreds of millions annually. Human trafficking, port control. By the mid-2000s, the CJNG isn't just a drug cartel. It's a diversified criminal corporation. Meanwhile, the man behind all of this stays invisible. El Mencho becomes known by a nickname in the cartel world: El Fantasma, the Ghost. For over a decade, he is the DEA's most wanted fugitive. They put a $15 million bounty on his head, the largest in agency history. And for years, nothing. He moves constantly. He trusts almost no one. His inner circle includes his wife, Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, herself a major player in the operation, and his son, El Menchito, who serves as second in command. In 2014, the government gets El Menchito, arrests him, eventually extradites him to the United States, where he is convicted and sentenced to life in prison in 2025. El Mencho doesn't flinch. He promotes new lieutenants. The cartel keeps growing. Now we go back to where we started. But this time, the whole story. April 2015. Mexican intelligence receives credible information. El Mencho is hiding near Villa Purificación in the southern mountains of Jalisco. This is the break authorities have been waiting for. They call it Operation Jalisco. Before dawn on May 1st, 4 military helicopters take off. 18 soldiers and federal agents aboard the lead aircraft, a Cougar EC-725. Elite units, professional soldiers. Everything goes according to plan. Then the pilot sees them. A convoy of vehicles moving on a dirt road with headlights off. He radios down, "Stop the convoy." And then one of those vehicles opens its roof panel. 6 rockets. CJNG had anticipated the operation. They were waiting, armed and ready. 2 rockets hit the Cougar. The tail section is destroyed. The aircraft spins 4 times in the air, then crashes into the hillside and explodes. Of the 18 people aboard, 9 survived. 3 soldiers were so completely incinerated in the wreckage that the government initially denied the helicopter had crashed at all, claiming it was an emergency landing for 4 days. DNA testing eventually confirmed the dead. One survivor, Federal Agent Ivan Morales Corrales, described it to Univision in 2023. He escaped the crash, was immediately engaged by CJNG gunmen. His uniform caught fire. He rolled on the ground to put himself out. He hid behind a rock. He was rescued with 3rd-degree burns over 70% of his body, 15 reconstructive surgeries, months in a medically induced coma. President Peña Nieto awarded him the Police Medal of Merit. 10 years later, in April 2025, gunmen intercepted Morales Corrales' vehicle and shot him dead. He and his wife, 15 bullets, the same cartel, a decade of patience. The helicopter attack doesn't end with the crash. It's a signal. Within hours, CJNG launches coordinated attacks across the entire state. Roadblocks, burning buses, armed confrontations with security forces in multiple municipalities simultaneously. They want the government to know, come after us, and we shut down your state. President Peña Nieto goes on Twitter to announce the cartel will be dismantled. The security commissioner announces a significant effort to capture El Mencho. El Mencho is not captured. The CJNG is not dismantled. The following year, they are bigger. By 2016, the CJNG has a new enemy, and this one is the most powerful cartel in the world. The Sinaloa Cartel, El Chapo's empire, has always been CJNG's ideological parent and territorial rival. When El Chapo is arrested in 2016 and extradited to the US, the Sinaloa cartel fractures into 2 factions, the Chapitos, El Chapo's sons, and the Mayiza, led by El Mayo Zambada. El Mencho smells blood. CJNG moves aggressively into contested territories. Tijuana, Ciudad Juarez, Zacatecas. Every contested border crossing is a potential prize. In the state of Colima, a Pacific port crucial for fentanyl precursor chemicals from China, the fighting between CJNG and Sinaloa pushes homicide rates above 100 per 100,000 people. 3 years in a row. For context, that's higher than any active war zone on Earth. Between 2018 and 2020, researchers document 298 acts of cartel violence directly attributed to the CJNG, more than any other cartel, more than the Sinaloa Cartel, more than Los Zetas at their peak. The DEA now calls them, officially, one of the most significant threats to the public health, public safety, and national security of the United States. In February 2025, the U.S. government labels CJNG a foreign terrorist organization. Not a drug cartel, a terrorist organization. For 15 years, El Mencho ghosts every attempt to find him. Corrupted officials tip him off. He fakes illnesses. He moves safe houses constantly. The DEA raises the bounty to $15 million. Nobody collects. In 2024, El Mencho's son-in-law, a high-ranking CJNG leader who had faked his own death and was living in California under a false identity, is arrested in Riverside. He eventually pleads guilty to money laundering. In February 2025, El Mencho's brother Abraham is recaptured. The noose is tightening. Then, February 22nd, 2026. Mexican military intelligence confirms El Mencho's location, a gated community in the mountain town of Tapalpa, Jalisco. The operation launches before dawn. Special forces on foot, supported by 2 military helicopters. As troops approach the compound, CJNG gunmen open fire with heavy caliber weapons. El Mencho runs. He and 4 bodyguards break out of the compound and flee into the surrounding forest. Special forces pursue them. A second firefight breaks out in the trees. 1 military helicopter is hit by gunfire and forced to land. El Mencho is wounded. His bodyguards are killed or wounded. He is captured. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, dies of his wounds during the evacuation flight to Guadalajara. Within hours of the announcement, Mexico erupts. CJNG loyalists set fire to buses and taxis across Jalisco. They throw up roadblocks in 20 states simultaneously. Text messages go out to civilians. Stay home. Starting at 2 p.m., we will go after anyone on the streets. 25 members of Mexico's National Guard are killed in 6 armed confrontations in Jalisco alone. 30 cartel members killed. 1 civilian woman caught in the crossfire. Flights are grounded. Highways close. For a day, large parts of Mexico simply stop. This is what one man's death costs. El Mencho built the CJNG around one thing: himself. Unlike the Sinaloa Cartel, which had multiple power centers and a distributed command structure, CJNG was a personalistic empire. With him gone, there is no clear successor, no second in command with comparable authority. His son is in a U.S. prison. His brother was just arrested. His son-in-law is pleading guilty in federal court. The franchise model he built, smaller cells operating under the CJNG brand, now becomes a liability. Every local commander sees the power vacuum. Every rival smells blood. Analysts who study Mexican cartels say it plainly. The death of El Mencho may reduce violence in some places, or it may trigger a new cycle of fragmentation and war. Exactly the kind of chaos CJNG exploited when it was born. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more.